Hello, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of PLM Green Global Alliance speaks with PLM related vendors about sustainability. And today we talk with aPriori. My name is Jos Voskuil and I'm here with my colleague Mark Reisig from Same Data. And we're talking with Mark Rushton and Ryan Flavelle about their product and their interest in sustainability. Welcome, Mark. Welcome, Ryan. And first of all, can you give us a short introduction of yourself and your relation to sustainability? I will start with you, Mark.
Okay, thanks, Jos. Yeah, thanks for inviting us on. My kind of introduction to sustainability was at school, and it always kind of interested me. Now I have a daughter, and I've always been in the space of product development and product design, and sustainable product design has just seemed to make sense. It doesn't always make sense from an economic and financial perspective, but from a logical resource kind of perspective, it just made sense to me to try and reuse and reduce what we consume. So that's where my interests come from. And obviously, yeah, as I mentioned, having a daughter, leaving the planet in a state that she's going to have a good quality of life is important to me as well.
Right. And Ryan, you are the younger generation compared to us, huh? So
Yeah, so from sustainability perspective, like personally, I'm a huge fan of being outdoors, getting out and about in wildlife, and it's definitely something more recently we're starting to see the impacts of climate change, even here in Northern Ireland, much more extreme weather than what we're used to. So, you know, there's also sort of a lot of reports that are pretty conclusive on the importance of us limiting that climate change and limiting that global warming to protect our wildlife, protect our natural resources. And that's really sort of the perspective I come in for sustainability. I'm very fortunate to be the product manager for sustainability offering within aPriori. So I'm really enjoying the fact that something I care about outside of work is something I care about inside of work, and really joining those together has been great for me.
okay, so great to hear you are product manager of the sustainability product part. That means aPriori has a sustainable intention, and so maybe Mark or Ryan, can you tell me something more about the company? What is their business and what is their relation to sustainability?
Sure. So we're a software company in the product development space. We've been around just over 20 years as a company, and we're primarily known for cost. So calculating how much a product should cost based on the CAD model or digital twin. And we do that by analyzing the geometry and simulating the manufacturing process, and we optimize that manufacturing process as we analyze it and simulate it, and use all of that data to give feedback on manufacturability and cost. And the next logical step really was sustainability. So a lot of our customers were kind of requesting information on sustainability, and since we had the precision and the granular information of all of the manufacturing processes that go into making a product, it was a kind of a logical next step really. But we supply our solution to hundreds of manufacturers globally, and it's really to enable data-driven decision making, whether that's around profitability or sustainability.
And where did the interest into sustainability came into the company? Was it also your company mission, or did it come from your customers that pushed you to be more focused on sustainability parameters also?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think a lot of people within aPriori wanted to do something in that area, but ultimately to be sustainable as a business, we responded to customer demand and the market pressure. So with a lot of the incoming regulations and consumer demand filtering up to OEMs, I think there was an opportunity to give insights much faster than the traditional methods.
Right. Mark R.
So Mark, as aPriori has moved into the sustainability space, do you see the users? I'm curious about the mix of users because I've actually used their product in a past life when I was working at a large manufacturer. Like, kind of what percent, just in general, is used by procurement versus, say, designers?
It's a good question, actually. So we have a number of role-based applications for different roles. So we have AP design, which design engineers can leverage. I'd say the majority of our users are cost engineers or value engineers or manufacturing engineers that are somewhere in between the two. So that's coming from the cost background. A lot of those have kind of taken responsibility for calculating carbon emissions, but also we have people in sourcing and procurement, because using our should costing you can do obviously fact-based negotiations, and a lot of OEMs are pressuring their suppliers to come up with carbon data for their operations as part of their scope 3. But yeah, I would say as a percentage, the design engineer space is definitely growing the fastest. A lot of people wanting to shift left all of their kind of manufacturing insights. But yeah, the majority of our users are probably in the middle, in cost engineering, value engineering, and then maybe a percentage in between in sourcing and procurement.
Okay, great.
And I guess just to add on top of that, we are expecting all our customers to care about sustainability, regardless of the role that they're in.
Right.
At the end of the day, we have been focused on cost. We've then introduced our design for manufacturability. Sustainability is a third layer on top of that, driven by our customers. Carbon is going to become a currency. You're going to have to report on it. You're going to be taxed on it. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, it's going to be something that is going to be involved in all the roles and all the applications that we provide in aPriori.
Are you already focusing on kind of reportings at this moment with aPriori, or are you still in the, I would say, in the estimate, in the engineering phase, where the reporting comes from the real activities? Or
so certainly within our offering at aPriori, we provide sort of cradle to gate embodied carbon estimations,
mm-hmm.
And that is broken down to process carbon, material carbon, and we have the ability for customers to add logistics carbon into that as well. We aren't necessarily providing full life cycle assessment reports for our customers, but we are giving them that at the click of a button, or with minimal inputs, they're getting that embodied carbon results to do those trade-off analysis, to do their sourcing analysis. So we're not necessarily a life cycle assessment tool. We assist in that process, or we can assist in that process, but our reporting is very much focused on what we look after in our manufacturing process models.
Okay. And then the big question comes, of course, how do you connect to the process with your software offering to an existing company that have their software, their ways of working? How does this work if they want to start working with aPriori for sustainability or also cost estimates?
So yeah, we have a number of different options for that, but key to our solution is connecting to existing business applications and tools. Mm-hmm. So we have CAD plugins that link the CAD tool of choice directly to our platform. We can also plug into PLM, or we could be used standalone. It really depends on how the company wants to work. But the more integrated you choose to make aPriori into your existing tools, the more automation we can provide. So with PLM integration, everything that gets checked in can be analysed, and the CO2 and cost information can be fed back into the PLM system. And then design engineers or value engineers just get sent an email with a report, and you can leverage the analytics as well. So we really take the existing investments in digital twin technology and where most companies focus on a digital twin of the product, we kind of couple that to a digital twin of the manufacturing process or processes, and a digital twin of the factory or the manufacturing facility. And by adding those two together, we're actually analysing the geometry, which not many tools, especially LCAs, actually care about the geometry, and run it through very precise calculations of manufacturing that geometry in specific machines in specific locations. So that's how it all plugs in, and you can do it on a part level, assembly level, or on a bulk or fully automated level.
So, Mark, if I understand this correctly, I could take a part or an assembly and essentially look at this multiple ways. I could lower my carbon footprint in the way that I manufacture it, or where I'm getting the materials, but essentially I can run a bunch of scenarios and come up with the best results that have both the costs and the carbon. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, so we take the geometry out of the CAD file, look at the shape of it, the wall thickness, analyze the geometry, look at the material that's been chosen, and we can choose a range from our library or read from the CAD or the PLM system what material's been chosen. We look at all the manufacturing processes that are needed. So if it's sheet metal, we look at the laser cutting or plasma cutting, and then the bending and maybe powder coating or anodizing or whatever secondary processes you might want to add to it. Look at the carbon, the cost, the energy use of all of those, and then the location will determine like the overhead rates, but also the energy mix. So where's the power coming from? Is it coming from nuclear, coal, hydroelectric, or solar or wind? So those are the four kind of levers that you can start to play with to look at reducing cost and carbon together.
I think,
excellent.
Yeah, conceptually it looks perfect. Now if we go to the real life, there needs to be a lot of accurate data. And how do you see this happening at your customers? What are the data challenges that they face mostly?
Yeah, certainly from a sustainability perspective, the actual carbon emissions factors are really a big challenge, what we're seeing from our customers, particularly when they look for their scope 3 emission reporting from their suppliers. Particular parts of the world are less incentivized right now to be tracking and to be monitoring the carbon emissions. In our digital factories, like Mark has referenced, it contains all the data that we need to sort of build that digital replica of a factory, be it the labour rates, the overhead rates, material cost, but also we've now got material carbon emissions factors. We take them from a third-party eco-event at the moment.
Okay,
The way our factories are set up is that you can create specific supplier factories. So we provide baselines. You can then make them bespoke and specific to that supplier or to your own site. Add your materials, and when that primary data becomes available, as that's the absolute key for the reporting, as primary data is king, you can add that in very easily, have it available from your deployment going forwards for that facility.
Right. Yeah, you're mentioning eco-invent. I think that's one of the databases most mentioned related to sustainability with the parties that we were speaking with. It also is a big push for digitalization. Is this also a topic at your customers? If you have drawings, do you need to have 3D CAD models? You need to have reliable CAD models, or how does it work?
Yeah, so to get the best out of aPriori and to really automate it and get the biggest return on investment, the 3D CAD model is the chosen or preferred route, I should say. But we can work without one, but obviously we'd much rather have one, and it gives you that level of precision that it goes beyond an LCA tool. With lots of assumptions made just on the material and the finished mass. So yeah, the 3D CAD is where we want to be with it.
Right. I mean, yeah, that's the differentiator I hear, because often you see people working from the BOM, So on the part selection and do the calculations there, and you say, okay, we start from the CAD, right?
Yeah, I think by doing that, we want to be earlier on in the process. The BOM generally comes a lot later. We want to be enabling those data-driven decisions at design or as early as possible, and give the tools to make incremental improvements throughout. So designers can choose the right processes and the right materials, and then the value or manufacturing engineers can refine it further and look deeper at which machines are being used and which facilities, and then sourcing can look at the best suppliers to find where those materials are most readily available, and what suppliers have got those machines available, and what their capacity is like. So we're just kind of incrementally improving the insights given to all the departments, and really bringing them all together, seeing the same scenarios and seeing the same data, but in their own context.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mark, you've mentioned processes a couple times. I know you have a lot of different manufacturing processes, but can you explain that a little bit more?
In terms of which processes we support, or
like how many? Just a rough idea.
Oh, it's something. Ryan will probably correct me, but it's something like 440. So there's the high level ones like plastic molding. So within plastic molding, we support injection molding. I call it vacuum forming, but compression molding. Then there's all the levels of CNC machining, turning, casting, die casting, sand casting, and then you've got all the assembly operations, different coatings, heat treatments, you name it. We can probably.
So the bottom line is, and even with sustainability, there's lots of options to the person designing whatever it is they're designing, right?
Yep, absolutely.
And are there any industries where you are, I would say, focused, or what is your main customer base in what type of industries?
Yeah, our main customer base is in industrial equipment, which is quite a broad category. Right. But we're seeing a lot of growth in automotive and aerospace, and even oil and gas are kind of jumping on the sustainability bandwagon, so to speak. They want to lower their emissions as well. But yeah, we're seeing a lot of growth in automotive.
Okay. Yeah, I think even if we talk about oil and gas, I mean, it's not necessarily that you are clean, but at least if you can reduce, that's also one of the first targets usually, to start measuring and reducing.
Yeah, that's it. If we're all heading in the right direction, that's it's got to be a good thing.
Okay. And where in the life cycle process does the assessment start? Is it already a designer that is taking the manufacturing process into consideration, or is it happening after an engineering release? Can you say something about the most common process in companies?
Yeah, so from talking to customers, we've kind of identified 4 levels of maturity when it comes to sustainability. So the first stage is really creating a baseline. So they want a nice, precise baseline of their products today, and that's a challenge. So getting data from suppliers, particularly if they're small suppliers, is a challenge. So some of our customers are taking it on themselves. They're using aPriori to model the suppliers' manufacturing facilities. So that's the kind of first stage. And then the kind of easiest next step is to look at the sourcing, so sustainable sourcing. So look at what suppliers are in different regions and who can offer the kind of most sustainable manufacturing processes based on their energy mix. Because you don't need to change the design necessarily. So it's just, where can I manufacture this to make it as low impact as possible. Yeah, and then the third stage is kind of looking at existing designs and kind of re-engineering them just to kind of improve on them. So maybe you can use more recycled content in the material. You're not having to kind of redesign it too much. You just look at a different material maybe without having to do much on the design side, and you can get a further improvement. And then the last stage, the kind of most mature, is to design the products with sustainability in mind all the way through. So the design is not just looking at the function, but how can I reduce the overall impact? So reduce the weight for the in-use phase and reduce the embodied carbon as well.
Right. And
Can you? I'm curious about how this has impacted how sourcing works with engineering, specifically things like zero RFQs and more strategic partnerships. Has the procurement used your tool to form these partnerships with suppliers, or?
Yeah, so Alstom, the train manufacturer, have really pioneered that zero RFQ, and they're using aPriori to do so. So they've pre-modeled a bunch of their suppliers and agreed all of the figures that have gone into the digital factories, so that they don't need to do an RFQ. They can just send off the parts, and they come back, and everybody's all kind of pre-agreed on all of the figures that are in that digital factory. So just a huge time saving and a massive cost saving as a result as well, and it ensures that both the relationship is good for both parties. Like, no one wants to put their suppliers out of business, because that's going to cost them a lot more in the long run than getting a slightly better price on a few parts. So that's exactly how aPriori is used in that department.
It's actually something as well we expect to start seeing a lot more collaboration with suppliers with respect to sustainability. There's maybe more sort of contractual negotiation in terms of cost, but suppliers will be vital that you get the information, because you are sort of on the hook for your scope 3 reporting as well. So there's going to be much more collaboration and working with suppliers to achieve that sustainability data. So we see aPriori as a really good fit for that.
Right, yeah, you were mentioning scope 3 reporting, which is I think mandatory, I think, for the bigger companies, and the smallers are often doing just the guesstimates. So slowly we're getting there. Ryan, can you be a little bit specific on the product that you are responsible for? What is your sustainability offering, as you mentioned in the introduction?
Yes, so Mark's touched on quite a lot of this, but our sustainability model is really sort of a layer on top of our existing manufacturing process model. So you have your CAD parts, we extract the geometry, we then sort of can determine the processes that are needed, the machines that are required to make those processes feasible, and sort of eventually we get the material that's being used, the cycle time, the machine information, and the consumable data that's required to actually manufacture those parts. And that then put us in a really good position that we can partner with EcoInvent, who I referenced earlier, to provide us with carbon emissions factors. Sort of looking at the results from aPriori, the data from EcoInvent, we get a really accurate bottoms-up CO2e result. So rather than taking an LCA top-down perspective, we've been going bottom-up. I guess my role as sustainability product owner, we've been looking at sort of making sure that we are covering the most used and most carbon-intensive processes for our customers, really sort of tailoring that on demand and continue to expand that coverage across our whole base. And also working from perspective of what workflows are interesting for customers. So for design use case, do they need to know sort of cost versus carbon trade-offs straight away? So we'll give them insights that you've selected this material, there's alternative materials in your facility, they may be more expensive, but you'll save on carbon, which is more important to you. And that's sort of that other layer on top of the actual results, starting to think about workflows and how we drive that.
Is there also a feedback mechanism? Recently, we spoke again with SAP, and we will have an interview with them. They are very much in measuring what is happening on the shop floor, so they are having the actuals in their sustainability modules. Is there any feedback mechanism coming from the MES or the ERP system to aPriori, to your environment?
It's definitely something that can be done with customers. We don't sort of provide that out of the box, but we would work with SMEs from the customer side and sometimes even from the supplier side to make sure that the models are really accurate representations of what actually happens on the shop floor. And be that if we need to sort of modify the cycle times, modify the machines, that the uptime isn't capable of what we have in our machine and baseline, you can change all of those things to make sure that the simulation's as accurate as possible.
So it becomes a real digital twin of the
exactly
of the process. Yeah. Mark, anything from your side?
Just wondering, covered a lot here.
Yeah.
I guess the only other question I've got is, so your product covers things like I should be able to get the material costs, I should have multiple options for manufacturing process costs, I should be able to get the labor costs, the energy. Do you also track like supplier miles, or do you have, I'm not sure in the Eco Invent whether you know how much it costs to extract the materials or the carbon involved in all that? Is that included, or?
So the Eco Invent data provides hundreds, if not thousands, of different data sets. I'm sure you may be aware of just how expansive it is. We've extracted different data sets from Eco Invent and sort of built a material carbon factor for the actual material that sits in the digital factory. So that includes the mining of the material, any alloying that's applied to the material, where the data set's available, and even processing into the specific stock type. So be that the roll stock or the bar shape, etc. We're sort of, where available, applying as granular as possible an approach to get to that total factors. That covers all the carbon attributed to the material to get to that position.
So we started the introduction with, and that also there is a customer demand for sustainability parameters and information. How mature is this market? Are you have already customers that are fully up and running, or are they still in a kind of learning phase? Where are we in our field at the moment?
It's a good question. There's a real variety, and there's a lot of differences throughout. Even within an industry, there's a varying level of maturity, but we do have some that are replacing LTAs in a lot of cases. So Carrier, HVAC, they're actually using aPriori for their environmental product declarations. They've saved something like 33% of the time it takes to do one, and tens of thousands in external costs per product. So they're definitely up there in one of the more mature companies. And then others are really still at the baselining stage. They're looking at what's the best approach, and how much do we want to automate it, and trying to assess the risk really of not doing it.
Right.
Because in some parts of the world, regulations will stipulate you have to do it. In others, it's still potentially a competitive advantage to do so. Right. Because at some point, I think suppliers are likely to be graded based on how kind of environmentally friendly they are. So rather than just a preferred supplier, you might have different grades of greener suppliers and things like that. So it's
so Mark, I'm curious about that. Do you have customers that are either applying a cost to the carbon, or they're treating it more like a commodity, so that they can more easily avoid carbon avoidance, basically, right?
Yeah, so internal carbon pricing. Every one of our customers that's got the sustainability insights has their own internal carbon price. They vary massively, but it makes it a real strategic element to their sourcing. And one of them actually called up one of our customer account team and said, we did it, we just did it for the first time. And that was, they actually made a decision on sourcing based on the carbon and not just the cost.
Okay.
So they were really excited that kind of enabled that. So that's a really kind of strategic, and it essentially makes everything the same units. And by taking carbon and putting it into a currency, just makes it easy to make the decisions.
Exactly, and this is how businesses run, in the end, to be also literally sustainable in that sense. I was thinking about regulations, like we have the carbon pricing. I don't think you are so much involved with, for example, the digital product passport. That's more on design decisions, on material information, not necessarily the environmental footprint. Do you have any relations to the upcoming digital product passport from the European Union? Or is it a sidetrack in sustainability and circular economy mainly?
Yes, it's not something we've had too much demand for at the moment. We're definitely primarily in the decision-making space, but customers, because of the way we present our data, it's all transparent, which is one of the keys for sustainability. It's very easy to use the results of what we provide for audits and proving what customers are putting out in terms of numbers is trustworthy and traceable.
Yeah, I think that the challenge of the digital passport is that if you sell to a European market, you have to have this digital product passport which has information about the material, the carbon emissions equivalents, the recyclability, etc. So it's another pillar of data-driven information handling. It's also going along the whole supply chain. So I think almost to the end. Anything that we can expect as new things coming from aPriori for in areas where you are expanding your offering, or you're growing first with your customers and learning from their current situations?
Yeah, it's very much something that we're learning as we go and trying to be as reactive and at times as proactive as we can towards the customer impacts. We're absolutely expecting carbon and sustainability to become more and more important. We've got the regulations in the EU that are just beginning, like CSRD and CBAM reporting. Across the world, there's maybe some lags in that, but the regulations are definitely coming, and sustainability is going to become more and more important. We're also anticipating that sustainability reports will eventually require sustainability audits. The numbers that you present and you claim are going to need to be founded on really strong granular information, which we think puts us in a really, really good position from that bottoms-up calculation. So we're going to continue to spend a lot of effort making sure that we expand our models and that we are really confident in our models from that perspective. So we are reacting to new trends in manufacturing, new processes that are being used, and making sure that we get coverage to make sure our customers can accurately explore those avenues. We're also going to potentially look at adding some more environmental indicators in the longer term. Certainly the focus from our customer base and the focus of the regulations is very much swayed towards COGE or GWP 100, but we're probably eventually going to want to look to add water use, acidification, and all those different indicators as well, as they are important. And we're just going to sort of continue to make sure that we provide customers the best insights as possible. So shifting left as much as we can with insights, so providing designers with more useful information, more useful alternatives, and really sort of helping to drive that sustainability as a focus right from the very beginning across our customer base.
Okay. And if customers or potential customers want to learn more about your value offering, you will provide us with links both after the interview and on the website, or any places where people should go beside your website, of course, but any recommended studies or...
That's a good question, actually. I've thought of other places other than our website. I mean, everything's pretty much linked to from the website. We have podcast, which touches on all kinds of trends in manufacturing. So there's a good number of sustainability podcasts. And the details are on our website. The podcast is called Manufacturing Insights. So that's a good one. Subscribe to our blog. There's lots of blog articles on incoming regulations and trends and customer case studies. And,
I was going to say I read Mark's blogs.
Okay.
So. They're good.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark. We try to kind of leverage what's going on in the news and trends and industry news and things like that to keep our customer base up to date.
Okay. Good. Mark, any final question from your side?
No, I'm good. This has been very informative. I want to thank both of you.
Yeah. Same for me, Mark, Ryan. Thank you very much for explaining your product offering, your vision on sustainability and where you help. And I look forward to the next benefits to see in the field. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.